Hello and welcome back to another English lesson. Unfortunately, we have another sad one today. It seems like at least 50 people were killed in Gaza after Israel bombed a hospital. In this English lesson, you will learn at least 22 terms you can use in your next English conversation, or maybe if you are studying for the IELTS or TOEFL exam. Before we get too far into this lesson, I would like to send my heartfelt condolences to the people of Gaza. I don't give my opinion in these English lessons often, but I would like to know your opinion. Is a genocide happening in Gaza right now? And if you aren't sure what genocide means in English, it means the killing of a lot of people because of their race, because of their religion. Please let me know in the comments. The way this English lesson works is we will watch a news clip together, and then I will come back and teach all of the advanced terms, English phrasal verbs, and English idioms they use in the newscast. Let's take a look.
One of Gaza's last functioning hospitals now out of service after Israeli troops raided the facility, taking its director into custody for questioning. An NBC News crew capturing the chaos as the IDF closed in, fire ripping through the hospital. Israel saying the hospital was a Hamas stronghold, even as the World Health Organization condemned the raid and the forced removal of patients and staff.
For this first one, they use functioning. And for each of these terms, I will have a picture. I will have the official definition, and I will use it in a sentence to help you understand the term better. This first one is functioning, and it means working or operating as it should. The Kamal Adwan Hospital was the last functioning hospital in northern Gaza before it was attacked. Take a look at the picture. It looks like a man is repairing clocks. Let's take a look at the sentence. The old clock was functioning again after he did some repairs. Out of service. This will be helpful to know if you ever plan on visiting the United States. It means not working or available to use. After the airstrikes, many Gaza hospitals became out of service. Let's look at a sentence that uses out of service but isn't about the Gaza hospital bombing. The elevator is currently out of service. Please use the stairs.
One of Gaza's last functioning hospitals now out of service after Israeli troops raided the facility, taking its director into custody for questioning.
Next, we have a verb, and it is pronounced raided. Raided. Raided means attacked or entered a place by force, often to cause harm or take something. Israeli forces raided the Kamal Adwan Hospital, forcing it to close. I just can't imagine having a family member in this hospital. You think that person is there to get better, the doctors are there to help them, and then you have troops raiding the hospital. It has to be such a sad and scary event. And we will see later on, one boy does die because he is not able to get the help he needs. Let's look at another sentence that uses the verb raided. The police raided the building and found the stolen goods.
One of Gaza's last functioning hospitals now out of service after Israeli troops raided the facility, taking its director into custody for questioning.
Next, we have custody, or sometimes you might hear in custody. Being under the care or control of someone, especially the police. Some hospital workers were taken into custody during the military raid. In that sentence, raid is used as a noun. The suspect is now in custody and waiting for trial.
An NBC News crew capturing the chaos as the IDF closed in, fire ripping through the hospital. Israel saying the hospital was a Hamas stronghold, even as the World Health Organization condemned the raid and the forced removal of patients and staff.
Chaos is the next one. It is pronounced chaos, and it means a state of disorder and confusion. The bombing caused chaos around the hospital. And here we have a sentence that is not about the Gaza hospital. The sudden storm brought chaos to the festival. If you take a look at the picture, it looks like people were there to attend a concert, but then the weather got really bad and chaos ensued. Yeah, it looks like the storm really messed things up at the festival. Next, we have Israel Defense Forces, or you might hear them called the IDF. The IDF is the military forces of Israel. And in this next sentence, we have a phrasal verb. The IDF carried out operations in northern Gaza. What about this English phrasal verb, closed in on? We actually have two prepositions in this English phrasal verb. Closed in on means moved closer to surround or capture something. Israeli troops closed in on the hospital, suspecting militants were inside. Militants, it almost looks like military, like soldiers. Next is the World Health Organization. That is pretty hard to say. So in English, you might just hear the WHO. And it is a global organization, meaning like all around the world. A global organization that helps with health issues around the world. And they were not happy that Israel attacked this hospital in Gaza. The World Health Organization criticized attacks on hospitals in Gaza. Notice it says hospitals. This is not the first hospital that has been attacked in Gaza. In fact, the WHO condemned the attacks. What does condemned mean? Strongly said something is wrong or bad. Global leaders condemned the bombing of hospitals in Gaza.
An NBC News crew capturing the chaos as the IDF closed in, fire ripping through the hospital. Israel saying the hospital was a Hamas stronghold, even as the World Health Organization condemned the raid and the forced removal of patients and staff. NBC's Hala Garani has more, and we want to warn you, some of the footage in this report is disturbing.
They also mention disturbing. This might be review because I have mentioned this in past English lessons. Reports of attacks on hospitals are disturbing and upsetting. So if something is disturbing, it doesn't make you feel very good.
And we want to warn you, some of the footage in this report is disturbing.
One of the last known images of Dr. Hussam Abu Safieh, the director of Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, walking toward an Israeli tank amid the ruins around what once was one of the enclave's largest medical centers.
This next one is ruins, and it is a noun. We do have the verb ruined. If we go back to that festival we talked about earlier, the festival was ruined because of the storm, but this is a noun. The broken remains of something that has been destroyed. If you visit Italy, you might see Roman ruins. Unfortunately, if you visit Gaza today, you might see hospitals in ruins. Families searched through the ruins of the hospital after the bombing. Enclave is the next one. A small area with people or culture different from what's around it. Think about Gaza. It is almost completely surrounded by Israel. There's a pretty different culture in Gaza versus Israel. Gaza would be called an enclave. Gaza is an enclave facing serious humanitarian challenges. Humanitarian, a big word there. It has to do with keeping people safe and healthy.
One of the last known images of Dr. Hussam Abu Safieh, the director of Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, walking toward an Israeli tank amid the ruins around what once was one of the enclave's largest medical centers. 24 hours earlier, the Israeli military surrounded the complex.
Complex. Here we have another noun, complex. There is another word in English, complex. It's an adjective and it means pretty difficult, like she tried to complete the complex math problem. But here we have a noun. A complex is a group of connected buildings. The hospital complex was severely damaged during the attack.
Walking toward an Israeli tank amid the ruins around what once was one of the enclave's largest medical centers. 24 hours earlier, the Israeli military surrounded the complex. Dr. Abu Safiya pleaded for help throughout, even after burying his own son in the hospital courtyard in October.
We want to send our message to the world. Please help us.
Fires raging inside, staff using flashlights and cell phones to see, helplessly trying to extinguish the flames.
Extinguish. We have a verb here. It means to put out a fire or stop something completely. Firefighters try to extinguish the flames at the hospital. And in the picture, a person is using a fire extinguisher to put out what looks like a fire on a Christmas tree.
Fires raging inside, staff using flashlights and cell phones to see, helplessly trying to extinguish the flames. As the troops approach, medical staff try to save the remaining patients. This boy brought into this treatment room, struggling to breathe.
I feel so bad for the innocent people of Gaza because they are definitely struggling. It means trying very hard to do something difficult. Doctors are struggling to help patients under such conditions.
This boy brought into this treatment room, struggling to breathe. A man treated on the floor. The boy on the bed dies. While the armed forces outside the complex walls edge closer. On Friday, IDF troops stormed the hospital. Staff are told to strip and are marched out through the rubble with their hands up. That evening, Dr. Abu Safiya is summoned outside by troops who ask him in Arabic, "Is there anyone left inside?" "There is no one left inside the hospital," he replies. After gravely ill patients were loaded onto ambulances and transported to elsewhere in Gaza earlier that day.
Earlier, we talked about a storm. Here we have a verb, stormed. It means moved angrily and forcefully, often with violence. Soldiers stormed the hospital, causing panic. We might also say they caused chaos in the hospital. In the picture, you can see troops storming a building. Who knows? It could be a hospital. You might also have the English phrasal verb stormed out. This woman looks like she is storming out of a meeting. Maybe somebody said something to upset her. She got mad and she left. She stormed out of the meeting. Strip is another verb. It means to take off clothing or coverings. Patients had to strip their outer clothes before entering the secure area of the hospital. Unfortunately, in the news story, the opposite was true. Patients had to strip off most of their clothing and were forced to leave the hospital. I guess troops were worried that some people might have weapons under their clothing, so they were forced to strip off their clothing. How about this sentence that has nothing to do with the violence in Gaza? The man began to strip off his wet clothes after walking home in the rain.
IDF troops stormed the hospital. Staff are told to strip and are marched out through the rubble with their hands up. That evening, Dr. Abu Safiya is summoned outside by troops who ask him in Arabic, "Is there anyone left inside?" "There is no one left inside the hospital," he replies. after gravely ill patients were loaded onto ambulances and transported to elsewhere in Gaza earlier that day. The Israeli military says it attacked the hospital because it was a terrorist hub and published these images of guns they say they collected from the complex.
Summoned is the next one. Summoned. It means officially called to come somewhere. The UN summoned leaders to discuss the Gaza crisis. If I did something wrong in my classroom, I might be summoned to the principal's office. Gravely ill. You might know ill as in being sick, but gravely ill is even worse. It means very sick or in danger of dying. Many gravely ill patients were left untreated after the hospital was attacked. Next, we have hub, and that is a center for activity. The Israelis thought the hospital was a hub for terrorists, was a hub for Hamas. Basically, they thought it was a hub for bad people. But in the sentence, we have a very different way to use hub and hospital. The hospital was a hub for medical supplies in northern Gaza. Hub can also be the center of a wheel that looks like the hub of a bicycle tire. Tire and wheel are basically the same thing.
They've confirmed that Dr. Abu Safia is being questioned and is considered a suspect for, quote, potential involvement in terrorist activity, but they have not disclosed his location to NBC News or shown us any evidence supporting these claims. After walking toward the Israeli troops, Abu Safia was asked to climb into their tank. Doctor, how are you? Everything okay? A soldier asks in Arabic and shakes his hand. The doctor, who'd refused to leave his hospital, was soon out of sight.
Potential involvement. What does that mean? Possible participation or connection to something. They investigated the potential involvement of other groups in the hospital bombing. I think in the newscast, they say the IDF thought the doctor might have potential involvement with Hamas. In the picture, there is no doubt all of the people in the picture seem like they are very involved in something. They are participating. Next, we have refused. That means to say no to something. He refused to eat broccoli. In that picture, you can see there is a little boy at the table. Parents always try to get their children to eat vegetables because it is good for them. It looks like this little boy is refusing to eat his vegetables. He's refusing to eat his broccoli. Congratulations, you made it to the end of another English lesson. Super sad news out of Gaza. I'm recording this at the end of 2024. I hope peace can come to Gaza in 2025. If you made it this far, please don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss another English lesson. And if you learned any English, please go ahead and hit that like button. A lot of sad news in the world. Right down there is an English lesson about a plane that crashed in South Korea. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.